point I'm just trying to make is we know what to do. It's the scale at which we do it and the speed at which we do it, which is now going to become very, very important. Let's look at one other thing, cities. Now, traditionally, environmentalists and many others have looked at cities as a problem. You know, cities taking land, lots of pollution, lots of people living together, sometimes very cramped quarters and so on. And indeed, that can be a real problem. But what we now know is that actually, if you want to reduce your carbon footprint, if you want to reduce travel miles, if you want to reduce food miles, actually having people living in concentrated places is a really, really efficient way of using that space. If you go up rather than out in your building, it's a really good way of reducing food waste, because if somebody doesn't want something over here, somebody over there probably does, and so on and so on. So there's a whole movement to get cities being beacons of sustainability rather than just drains on sustainability. Now, there's a group called the C40, a group of 14 cities, actually it's now about 56 cities, includes London, Montreal, and so on. Ken Livingston took us into it when he was there a few years back. They're doing amazing work in cutting greenhouse gas emissions in cities around the world. And they're able to do it very often because they can defy a national government. So in the United States, in other parts of the world where the federal government has refused to move in any substantive way on climate change. Some big cities have said, we're just going to do it anyway. So they're really leading the way, the politics and the practice of cutting carbon. And London is one of those moments. Boris is probably so great at the moment, but London is one of those C40 cities. In another area, take Berlin. They've got a radical program for energy efficiency, whereby they can provide cheap and practical energy efficiency for some of their major and most leaky buildings. So over the last few years, they have retrofitted with insulation and other things over 1,300 major buildings just in Berlin alone. And they've cut carbon emissions from those buildings by 27%. Okay? So we're not anything near that in Britain. But if you've got that ambition, it can be done. Flanders in Belgium, for example, which is not one city, there are many cities there, it's a very urbanised area. They're now recycling waste at a level of about 75%, double what we do here in Britain. Again, those kinds of sustainability achievements are possible with determined effort. So, can you imagine? With London, not just be like that on a strange day when somebody decides to make sheep off in the, I think it's Brent, isn't it, could we actually see much more nature genuinely integrated into cities, much more green city design. I believe that's perfectly possible, so that we could end up with cities swaying in green roofs, catching rainwater, recycling rainwater. We could end up with our farms, for example, being much more sustainable, having much less impact on soil erosion. So we could end up with, can you imagine, going to Wales and finding wolves again, or beavers in the river in England? People are thinking these things. It's already happening in other parts of Europe. People are thinking these things around Britain. It could be perfectly possible based on the evidence we've seen elsewhere. And that's not just good, as I said, for wildlife, it's really good for well-being. I'm sure many of you have seen the increasing number of studies which suggest that people's health is so much better if they get out in the open space. People in hospitals recover much quicker if they're looking out, for example, over a green field than if they're looking out over a red brick wall, and so on and so on. Weirdly, I mean, maybe it wouldn't be a surprise to many of us if we love nature, if we count ourselves as connected with nature, but the science is now showing how good for us nature actually is, not just good for nature. So, perfectly possible. What do we need to do to What do we need to do to bring this about? Well, it's not going to surprise you, is it, that as a campaign, I say we need to campaign. But let me put it another way. As citizens, we need to make sure our politicians know what we want. That's all campaigning is. It's all it is. In elected democracies, unless we tell our politicians what we want, they're not going to do it. Sometimes even we tell them they don't do it until enough of us tell them. That's all campaigning is. It's using our democratic rights. Called solutions on what we want to happen. Now, what we also know is if enough of us want it and ask started to become a political issue. So the politicians put it in their manifestos locally and nationally and make things happen. So, I'm very sorry, I'm just recovering from losing my voice, and I'm going to cut this short, otherwise I'll lose it. That will give more time for questions from you. We, at Friends of the Earth, and many other organisations then, are in the business of putting forward solutions and getting the public behind them so that politicians make them happen. We've done this over and over again. I mentioned at the beginning the recycling. It's only a small thing, but the fact that we now in Britain do have doorstep recycling in most houses was a result of the campaign by Friends of the Earth. The fact that we have the world's first national board committing the government to cutting greenhouse gas emissions for climate change was a result of the Friends of the Earth campaign. A colleague of ours, sorry, the owner is over there, so we talk to everyone as well, knows a lot about Friends of the Earth and the campaign, so we can both field questions. A colleague of ours was the one who actually conceived the climate change act and wrote the original draft. But the public got behind it, local groups and others that made it. So we know this works. What can you do now? We have a number of campaigns where we're actively engaging in now, which the public can get behind. The first one, as I've mentioned, is Run on Summer. That shouldn't surprise you. I'm delighted that Brent Group is launching their own version of it. What we're trying to do with Run on Summer, the vision, is to see every school in Britain as an appropriate roof with solar energy. That would, as you said earlier, not only reduce their energy bills, it will reduce carbon dioxide emissions, also demonstrate to communities throughout the country that they can have clean, reliable, locally sourced energy right in their midst and liberate them from the slavery, frankly, of having to get their energy from big energy companies, which are making huge profits at our and the client's expense. So, if you're interested, if you want to be a part of that, you want to help Brent go solar, please sign up for that. Talk to my friends and colleagues in the Brent Group, and we'll steer you in the right direction. Next is the bee course. So about 3 years ago, we said bees are in a really sharp decline in this country. If we lose them, we lose our pollinators, prices of food will go up, other nature will be damaged. I don't know how many, which is everybody want to guess. So anybody who has been part of the bee course campaign must not answer this question. Does anybody else think they know how many native bee species there are in Britain? Wild guess. 20, 100? Any advice on 100? 150? There's actually 240 native British bee species, of which 3 or 4 are already become extinct. Several are now on the critical list. And they, not hungry, in fact, there's the main problem. Or stick honeybees. They're domestic pigs, they've been grown like they're like cattle of the insect world. We farmed them for hundreds of years. But actually, they're not actually the best pollinators. We've got hundreds of other varieties, which are now in danger. So we launched this campaign to get the government to bring a national bee action plan. And within a year, due to the support of the public and groups like Brent and so on, we've got government to agree to have a plan and kept going. They've now launched that plan. It's okay, but it could be a bit stronger. So we're now in the final phase of that campaign to make sure that plan gets really, really strong, with a view to turning around the loss of British bees in the next 3 to 5 years. So that's all totally public pressure behind a very simple solution. Can you please have a plan with some concrete action which will turn this around? So I always get involved with that. If you've got kids, we have found the kids just love this one. When we go to festivals and so on, they keep coming back, trying to get the parents interested in bee suits and throw things out and that kind of stuff, you know. So it's proved incredibly popular. Then fracking. Many of you will know about this. The headlong rush by this government to now start a new flank, if you like, of the fossil fuel industry to get gas out of the ground in some conventional way. Really bad for climate change, also bad for local health, water supply, and so on. So we are working very hard to slow that down and get the public to realise the danger here. That is also an incredibly low number. I'm pleased to know that Brent is a frack-free borough. So far, keep it that way. So those are just 3 examples of solutions we're putting forward where we are after big change that will help bring about for nature and people's benefit. Okay? Perfectly possible. And I invite you to be a part of it, really. Simple as that. So what can you do? Very obviously, sign up to Run on Sun, support the local group here. Even if you're not part of the local Friends of Youth group, if you think that's a good thing to do, get schools in Brent, going solar, just let them know at the back, be a part of it. And I'm sure you'll be able to together to influence the local council, schools and others to do it. Secondly, if you're interested in those other campaigns, the positive vision about nature through the bees work, the campaign to stop this craziness of fracking in this country, and many other campaigns that you can find online, please just go on our website, find and sign up. You don't have to give us any money, it's your voice and your support in raising your democratic voice that we are most after. Now, we do need money. We're a charity. We have a relatively small budget. We survive 90% of individual donations. So if you want to join us, I'm going to say no, of course. They would be delighted. I would be delighted if you would. But you don't even have to give us money. My biggest plea is just take part in what we do. For your sake, not just for mine. I passionately believe that we can do a better world for those who come after us and for ourselves. I'm doing it not because it's a job, I'm doing it because I believe in it. I'm sure many of you believe in this too. Many of you will also be wondering, how can you best make a difference? All I'm really saying is, with Friends of the Earth, we can make a difference. We work with many other organisations as well. We're not working on our own. Any organisation that thinks they can do this in their own system. So we work very collaboratively with others, but you are more than welcome to jump on board with us and make a much bigger difference to our environment, our kids' environment, and to our own well-being in the years to come. So thank you very much. I'm open to questions.
Thank you very much, Andy. I'm going to just say a few things. I've got a visual aid with me, a couple of visual aids. This is my friend. Hello. Hello. You all right? Yes, I'm all right. Well, actually, I'm not too good. You're not too good? No.